Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
All right, welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
And we have a guest with us today. This is one of my dear clients, Danielle. Welcome, Danielle.
Danielle.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so happy to have you. Danielle has gone through such an incredible process for herself from the first time she had come in to see me. And I'm just really proud of her. And she continues to evolve every day, really. She sends me nice little email updates in between sessions when we see each other. And so there's always a lot of reflection and observation and change, so much change, so great. So I had invited her on the show to maybe talk about what her process has been. So Welcome, Danielle.
Thanks. As I was thinking about this, originally I thought I started struggling with food about 5 years ago because that's when the effects of my choices started taking root. But it was really long before that, about 15 years ago, when I started getting sick, and it took the doctors about 3 years to diagnose what was wrong. I went to specialist after specialist, and everyone said, we can't figure it out. And finally, I walked into our college's doctor's office, and this sweet lady looks at me. She goes, "Oh, honey, I know exactly who you need to see." And she sent me, after 3 years, she found the doctor. It was a friend of hers whose wife had gone through the exact same health issues that I had. And so he actually changed his field of study because no one could help his wife.
Oh, wow.
And so I walked into his office, and in walks this 70-year-old man, and he walks me through this process of how we're going to figure this out. We're going to work together and everything is going to be okay. I was eventually diagnosed just with severe food allergies. Allergies can be cyclical. They can change based on what's your environment. They can change based on your stress levels, what you're going through. And this sweet man figured it out, walked me through it. But at that time, food allergies was not popular. It was labels. now everybody kind of likes to say that they have an allergy in order to get out of eating something.
Everybody does. Yes.
And labels were not clear when you were trying to figure out what you could and could not eat. One of the issues that I ran into immediately was that my college was not equipped for someone with food allergies. And so they ended up telling me that I had to move off of campus. I had to change my housing. Finding foods was not easy. The gluten-free movement had not started yet. I found myself very alienated from people because if people were having dinner, they're having spaghetti, they're having lasagna, you're not invited. Holidays became difficult because I needed to pack all my food for all of my meals for wherever I was going. So I went from feeling like I had a very close knit to feeling like I was now on my own, kind of. I had so many wonderful people who were there to help, but the mental toll of being sick for so long and then trying to figure it out, it took a toll. On top of that, someone had said that it was God's judgment, that I had done something wrong. And so therefore I wouldn't be cured until I had repented. So then I went through my beliefs. My beliefs were were under attack for that as well, trying to figure out the social aspects of this, the emotional aspects of it, and my beliefs as well. And so when I graduated college, got a job, the next thing that I was facing was a doctor had told me along the line that I would not make it until 30 and I would never hold down a job. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know why he said this to me, and I don't remember who said it to me.
Yeah.
But it was so far from the truth.
So wait, hold on. 15 years ago was 2005, and you were told you were gonna internally combust and die by 30. And
Yes.
Are you kidding? Oh my
Right.
Yeah.
gosh, that's so like, as a human, that's so scary.
Yes.
To have people that were supposed to, oh my God. Okay. All right. Go on.
So as I was trying to find my footing now and make it as an adult, hold down a job, I had a friend ask me if I wanted to run a marathon. And I had always run like 3 miles. It was my therapy. It was the only time that I really felt good. So I told her, sure. I thought that after 2 weeks or so, she would lose the urge, and then that would be my excuse to drop out. And that didn't happen.
Right.
So I got hooked, and I found a wonderful group of people. I loved the training. I loved the discipline, and I loved the camaraderie. But one of the things in running is we push ourselves hard on as little as possible. Mm-hmm. And you got to run first thing in the morning. So you skip breakfast, you go for your run, you come back, and you're on to the next thing. So very often, a 10-mile run would be on a goo.
Oh gosh.
And then come home and you're on to the next thing. Yes, I would have breakfast, but now I know it wasn't nearly enough. And so about 5 years ago, I started noticing changes in my body. I didn't feel well. I started putting on weight. I was lethargic all the time. I wasn't sleeping. And so I started looking for help. But I wasn't ready to accept the help that I was given. Annie was actually the first person that I reached out to because of a friend. And I recently found all of your paperwork, and you both said really the same thing, but I wasn't ready to hear it. After that, I continued. Every time you pop onto Facebook, there's a new trend for you to follow. There's a new whatever, up your protein, and again, runners in good faith, we take whatever is, now you say drink a protein shake afterwards. So, okay, I'll drink 1. You say 2 is better. I'll drink 2.
Blindly listening.
Yes.
To the Facebook headline.
Yes.
Okay, I'm doing it.
So I was thinking that I was following people who had my best interest at heart and listening to people who genuinely cared, but without the knowledge behind it to do what was right for my body. So finally, after listening to a friend for a year telling me I need to go see Nicole, you need to go see Nicole, you need to go see Nicole, I finally went. And over the last 18 months, we've been working on listening to my body, not listening to everything else, making sure that breakfast is a very important meal for me, and just working on reprioritizing what needs to get done if I want to be healthy enough to do the things that I love.
Yeah. And the thing about too, what we're doing together, and also what makes, you unique as well, is not only were we initially working on some of like your, I don't want to call them gut issues, but when they kind of was with the food allergy type thing, because that's what you were coming in with, thinking this is still my story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And we were able to actually move through that a little bit too, which was really great. Yeah, so dealing with the food allergies, dealing with the gut responses, you're pulling all this stuff in addition to massive amounts of training.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Danielle, you are a powerhouse. And so because of the nature of your work too, you're piling so much of your workout. You're currently still, you get up quite early, to like nail it and get it all in. So when Danielle talks about like making breakfast so important, like we're not kidding, and that's still something that we continue to work on together, is still maximizing that piece because of how you are learning how it affects your entire day
Yes.
and your
Yeah.
evening. And so that still seems to be a work in progress, only because of the cool part is, not only because of the nature of what you do, but because of how much stronger you are and how you're
Mm.
able to push
Yeah.
naturally. Like
Yes.
you're just
Yes.
working out like that much better. Like, what you're putting in is like amazing quality. That's what's so cool about it.
Two things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Two things, you guys. So, Danielle, you had food allergies that existed and obviously started a little bit later in life, which is not unusual. But, there's food allergies that we're born with, which is, obviously we've got an issue from within our immune system, right? So then you have to think, like, if they're starting later in life, how much of the food allergies were exacerbated because of the stress of
Yes.
going to all the different specialists, having no answers, being told
Yep.
you're internally combusting, all of those things that like probably made it worse for you based on your stress level. And as women, we oftentimes take on our stress within our gut. And you could even argue men do that too. But it's very interesting how again, the evolution of food allergies now and where we've come with that. And both of you have food allergies. So I'm sure you understand, when your food allergies started, the evolution of being able to eat out at restaurants and
Absolutely.
currently with all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I find, interesting with all of this stuff is how, you're talking about how, well, now I have a big breakfast and, you're working towards the big breakfast kind of thing. Why is that so hard for athletes to understand? And I'm not saying you, Danielle, is you, but break the fast and eat breakfast. When did that go away? Because I can't tell you how many people's breakfasts are a single egg.
Yes.
Strawberry or two.
It's crazy.
And runners in particular eat nothing.
Yeah.
And in the running community, I witness it all the time. And people wonder like, oh, Annie doesn't run with anyone. Yeah, because I don't want to deal with your nutrition issues while running. You refuse to eat. So it's one of those things where it's like people don't eat enough for breakfast. And part of me wants to believe it's because, well, they've got 4 kids and all of the stress and got to go to work and all of the things. But why are we not putting ourselves at the forefront of
totally
life? I don't know. I just don't understand how breakfast has become so lost and gone. And,
well, that was a really big piece for you, Danielle, in general. And that's where we were starting to really work into this mindset thing. There were so many beliefs that you really let go of, which is really nice because it's opened up so much more freedom for you.
I don't understand why breakfast is so hard. I can tell you that if I get up earlier to have breakfast, my immediate thought is, but that means that I could have had 10 or 15 more minutes on my bike. And so instead of stopping to eat, I would rather jump on my bike because that's what I got up to do. I think some of it is just the hustle and the desire to do more instead of do less well. That pause in the morning to stop and eat breakfast, it's a pause for your body to say, like, I'm okay. I'm focused for the day. I'm ready. Because as soon as I jump on my bike, then for the rest of the day, it's on to the races. There is no slowing down. I do think in some of it, it's our desire to be better without understanding that if we respect our bodies, we can do better.
Less is more.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that really getting in that extra mile in the long run is not going to make a difference.
Correct.
But if I skip breakfast, I will feel like crap for hours after, even if I ate in the car, I ate a second breakfast, I got to work and I grabbed something else to eat. That initial taking care of your body, it sets the tone for the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you were doing those things, you're thinking, well, I'm eating.
Yes.
Like, and people think that though, well, I'm eating, or quote unquote, I'm eating all the time.
Yeah.
No. But are you eating still enough to support the stress that you just, not only just waking up from a fast, but also the stress that you just, put yourself through, the recovery that requires, and then the stress that your day also holds for you as well. That's what people don't understand.
It's interesting because, oftentimes people don't consider stress to be something that impacts their body, which is interesting because we can see stress. Stress comes out in the form of lots of different things with our body. And so I always find it fascinating when people are in such denial that stress doesn't impact, the shape of their body or the tone of their body.
Yep.
They're obviously, we can throw mood in there as well, and just their nutritional needs in the grand scheme of things. So it's really interesting that, stress needs to be considered, I don't want to go so far as to say a disease, if you will, but it needs to be considered a symptom or something that causes an effect on our body, and a very serious one nonetheless.
And good stress too.
Yeah, absolutely. All of it.
Yes. Exercise is stress, period. And it might make you feel good, and and we accomplish lots of things, but it still is stress. So that's a beautiful point you're making, Danielle, is it's good stress and bad stress. Stress is stress is stress. Danielle, do you feel like you, like, I would imagine, by the time you were starting with Nicole, you mentioned being ready. So I assume you were ready to start working on what you needed to work on to some degree, or at least, one foot in, one foot out, maybe. But were you scared at all? Were you scared to go on that journey?
I wouldn't say scared. I would say I was desperate.
Oh,
I was desperate to start feeling better. I was desperate. I felt like my personality had changed, how I reacted to situations. I wasn't sleeping at night. My energy was like totally tanked. Did I go through the motions of everything? Yes. Would anyone looking at me say she's healthy? Yes.
Yep.
I was not.
Okay.
I was absolutely miserable. But that still doesn't mean that it was easy.
No,
right.
Not at all. Of course not.
And that's all in reference to food allergies plus that addition of exercise.
Yeah.
The exercise that was going on. Okay. And you weren't scared at all. That's good. I mean, obviously there may be some fears that exist, but it was more so the desperation and pain you were in, which is interesting that any doctor you would have worked with, I find it always remarkable that Nicole or I are generally someone's first dietitian.
Yeah.
That you were not referred to someone, or that within the clinic or hospital or whatever, that someone was not working on this with you. Granted, we have the sports background, but there's generally allergy dietitians.
Sure. I was probably not working with a doctor as well as I should have, because every time I went, they would say, "You're fine." Because on the scale of healthy, even though I'm telling you these are my symptoms, this isn't how I used to feel, my heart rate still fell under normal, even though it had elevated over 20 beats per minute. I was really getting about 3 hours of sleep a night. But because I could still do the things that I was doing, it was considered healthy. I was using a lot of different apps that were telling me, I needed 1,500 calories or 1,700 calories, or, this is a low day, so you need 1,200.
Oh, gosh.
And it was actually, my sister-in-law is a PA. And she was the one who I called in desperation. And I was like, listen, like, these are what the experts are telling me, what I think are the experts, the people making money off of it.
Yeah, right.
And she was the one who said, you need to cut the crap and go to an actual dietitian. Stop messing around with nutritionists. Stop messing around with apps. You need to see a licensed dietitian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great.
Well, and how do you get out of the cycle of feeling that way? I mean, what's that quote, you keep doing something over and over again.
Yeah, the insanity thing.
Yeah. Right. Like, but when you're, and again, I have not had food allergies similar to either of you.
Yeah.
Isn't it somewhat maddening when no one can help you? And perhaps you had tests done, colonoscopies, scans, whatever, and no one sees anything, and yet you're feeling these feelings. And then you all, as someone, again, on the outside, thinking about, I work with eating disorders, and so much of their gut issues are either psychosomatic.
Yep.
Or I'll throw out there that F word, fake, because they're trying to restrict something or
right.
And it's a very, again, as we talked about at the beginning, it's a very trendy thing now to have food allergies, because food allergies, for whatever reason, equate to health. I don't understand that, but somehow having a gluten intolerance or avoiding dairy, it means you're healthier and or wealthier and all of these things. And it's just very interesting. So from my point of view, I would just feel like I was stuck in a hole, going deeper and deeper and deeper, with no one being able to help me. And yet knowing that there's probably a bunch of these practitioners that think I'm just making it up, like the rest of the world.
No, I had people ask me if I was making it up for attention. And so I asked my best friend one day, like, hey, is this not real? Like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And she just looked at me and said, I think if you wanted attention, you'd come up with a better way to do it. Yeah. And it was so much grace that I needed at that moment. One of the aspects of people making up allergies or thinking that it's harmless to say that they're allergic to something to get out of eating it is that then when you're dealing with a situation, people think that you're lying or that you're just being overly sensitive. So that when you go out to eat or I'm traveling with my family, I don't have everything I need. People don't realize the necessity of things being clean or of this being a real thing, right? Because so many other people have said,
yes,
oh, I'm gluten-free. And then they watch them eat a piece of cake or, and I will say at the beginning, when I was dealing with it, my thought was, if I'm going to get sick, I'm going all the way. And I'm going to enjoy this, and so I know for me as well, that threw people off of, is this for real? Or, and part of it was that I didn't have options available. Right. And some of it was, as you guys have talked about before, the deprivation. Yes. Well, I haven't had it in so long. I know it's going to make me feel sick. So I may as well make that night of misery worth it. And that really took me a long time of working through to say, no, I really want to feel well, and I really want to be stronger, and I really want to be able to live my life well and let that stuff go. There are also so many more foods available now
Yeah.
that didn't exist back then.
Right. But the cool thing is now you're actually starting to include things you haven't
Yes.
in a really long time. Like your repertoire of what you have now has expanded so greatly.
To foods that were no-go because they made you sick?
Both. To foods that made me sick, but also the foods that I felt like were making me gain weight.
Okay.
That
so kind of parallel things going on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So I reintroduced a lot of foods that left me not feeling as well 18 months ago, but also realizing if I eat this because I enjoy it, it's really going to be okay. I'm not allergic to it. There is a reason for it. And this, like gluten-free pasta, there are so many choices right now. But I didn't have it for years because I thought that I was always swollen the next day. Well, I was swollen because I went for a long run. So instead of recognizing like, no, I'm Italian, this is delicious, I love it. And this is the right time for me to be having it and to enjoy it. And and it's not the food that's making me feel this way.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you gained, throughout your journey, you gained some self-worth, even just, again, you could have sat in a hole with your food allergies. And oftentimes I feel like people don't choose to eat foods because they don't feel self-worth, but then they choose to eat the foods that make themselves sick because they don't feel self-worth. And it's really trying to find like who you are as a human, where you're at. Your allergies, maybe they go away at some point. But for right now, with who you are, here are the foods you can eat and enjoy and not be afraid of. And nothing needs to make you feel yucky. Nothing, you can have all of these things. But you do raise a good point. 15 years ago, things were not available like they are today. I mean, you could, in one part of you could actually thank all of the people for faking all of it.
Oh, I do.
Because the market exploded for
right.
them.
Yeah.
Never mind the real people with,
wrong
in your gut. But we'll do it for the people who are willing to pay lots of money for it. So I know how you feel. I had a friend who, she in fact had true celiac disease, and she said the same thing. She's just like, it really sucks because I go places and I can't have things cooked on the right, this surface or that. And you have people who are just ordering gluten-free because they think and she said she's very offended by it.
Yeah.
It's very much so like, you don't respect me and my, autoimmune disease, and you see people out there who are just so disrespectful of that. And it really does suck, like, well, you don't eat gluten, how come you look that way? And you start to get into that. And it's just like, people with celiac disease, to name one in particular, because it's so focused around food.
Right.
When you say that, you now it's like you must look a certain way to go with that, because if this health nut has been gluten-free and has this body, therefore it's just these layers, and it's so
bizarre. Yeah.
It is really bizarre, and it's really sad, again, for people like you who actually have gut issues, like actual things that you've really had to figure out, and that you didn't have as a child. It's not a peanut allergy that we just, okay, well, don't eat peanuts, pretty simple. But there's a different level involved with it, and it is challenging. And again, Nicole is the perfect person to work with because she herself has some allergies and understands that stuff, So it's really, really, I'm just really glad you worked through it. And as an athlete, you found cycling and you found a way to eat that works for you, and you're working through all of that, to circle back, back onto the soapbox. The running community is a really, really yucky community to be a part of in terms of nutrition and diet. yeah, you have people who don't eat at all and who only eat, avocados on their run, and people who are fasting for 48 hours on a run, and people who you literally pass anyone on the road or trail, and it's amazing how none of them are fueling appropriately.
Yeah.
At all.
When I go for a run, sometimes it'll end up only being, I shouldn't say only, but a 5-mile run. And people will ask you like, hey, why do you have your pack on? How far are you going? And well, I didn't mention that I just biked for 2 hours,
Right.
and, I wanted to make sure that I had what I needed, but also I was deciding how I felt that day, if I was going to go for a 5-mile run, or was I going to try to push it, for 5 or 10. And people will kind of laugh at you like, well, then why are you carrying food and water?
Right.
Well, I wanted to make sure that I had what I needed. It also makes a great pocket for my phone.
Yep. Agreed.
And, and it's funny how we really think that we can fool ourselves into thinking a Cliff Bar was lunch. Or a goo is enough. And I'm guilty of it too. I remember going for a run in the evening with friends, and we had one friend in our group who would always have a goo before our 5-mile run. And we would kind of tease him because it was a fun run. We weren't trying to break any records. We were just out there to have a good time. And the truth though, he was the most muscular. He was usually in the faster range. And he was giving what his body needed to enjoy that time with us.
Yep.
And so interesting that would be completely frowned upon.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nicole, you have no idea.
Well, and so just to segue into this really quick as we're kind of wrapping up here, I have to read that part of that email that you sent. And so kind of because it really coincides with what we were just talking about, but also kind of tagging on to aspects of your journey and working through some of those mental sides of things, what you thought was true or what needed to be true for you. And so you sent me this email saying how I think you guys went into like the smartest career possible. And you said, I walked through the office as my boss was shouting to someone about healthy macros. I cringed and went back to my room because she's a teacher, went out to recess, and someone was talking about her 200-calorie salad that was supposed to hold her over until dinner. She often says she needs a 2-hour nap in the afternoon. Wonder why. You also said, and then went back to my classroom where my aide was frantic because she needs to find a new counselor for her daughter who both have eating disorders. Yeah, but I thought what was so funny about that, or so interesting about that, is just that literally happened probably within a half an hour. This is the culture and the environment in which we all live.
Yeah.
And we are all a piece of the environment in which we all live. And so when you're in it and you hear it, you start living it, and the beauty of it is that you are now at the place where you now observe it and go, wow, I'm actually really glad I'm not in that anymore.
Yes.
That's what I'm seeing from you, at least.
I have to say, I feel a tremendous amount of relief at being able and willing to walk away and to not take in those thoughts of, oh no, I'm eating lunch with these people. They've had enough, so therefore I need to have enough. Or, you're at a friend's house and they don't eat as much because they didn't run 10 miles that day.
Right.
But also working in an area that you need an excessive amount of energy. And seeing people fatigued, but then not making the steps to correct it, just the same way that I had, right. Or thinking like, okay, I was told 1,200 calories is all I need today. So therefore 1,200 calories has to be enough, but yet you're exhausted, right. So just understanding the timing of your food. When I was training for my first Ironman, because I didn't do as much in the morning, I was eating so much more at night. Yep. But then I was starving by the time, I was eating. Whereas now eating in the morning. Come nighttime, I have a regular sized dinner and I'm good for the night. Yeah. I'm not craving junk food like I used to. I have always loved chocolate. I can have a piece and set it down and be completely satisfied instead of eating half of the bag and and wondering why I still want more. So learning how to eat for my body to feel well enough for the day and the demands that I am putting on it has been a long journey.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's been beautiful to watch and be a part of and support. And I sincerely mean that. I mean, you have just been so courageous and I love it. You know, it's just, you know, you just stand there and you're like, I don't like this. And I'm doing it anyway. And it's like, absolutely, girl, that's how it works. And then when you're done, you're like, but why did that feel good? Okay, exactly. You know, so it's beautiful to see. And I thank you for that, Danielle. Any closing words that you wish to share?
You know, I think the only thing that I would say is if you are struggling with this, find Annie or Nicole faster. You know, I fought for 5 years. And so 5 years of feeling sick, you know, and I thought that I was talking to people who knew what was best and they didn't.
Right.
And so by the time I found Nicole, or I was willing to finally start listening, my health had deteriorated significantly. It's not worth it. You know, enjoy it. I spent 5 years feeling sick that I didn't need to.
And it's not worth it.
No,
it's not worth it to look a certain way or to appear like you eat salads all the time. You know, to appear like everyone wants you to appear. It's just not. Life is much more valuable than that. And you're going to live a lot longer by eating the chocolate and eating what's good for your body and all of the things.
Yeah.
Big breakfast.
Yeah.
And eating, just simply eating for those people who don't choose to eat.
Yes.
And not thinking about it. That's the thing.
Right.
Like just being like, this is just what I need to do.
Right.
And moving on, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Danielle. We've really appreciated and enjoyed this. And again, your story is awesome and hopefully someone else will be inspired by it as well.
Yay. So. Thanks.
Talk
Bye,
to you
guys.
soon. Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit between2pastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.